Hello, my name is Derek Sinnott. I'm a director with Lean Construction Ireland and I will be your facilitator today. I would like to welcome you to this Lean Construction Ireland webinar presented by Elaine Harrington, who is specialist in business management and lean enterprise excellence at Suir Engineering. The title of this webinar is Digital Transformation, Where the Journey Begins. If you have questions, please type them in the question box and we'll consolidate and ask Elaine after the presentation. If there are any questions that you don't get answered during this webinar, we'll follow up by an email afterwards. The speaker for today is Elaine Harrington. From a young age, Elaine's curiosity has revolved around the intricacies of the construction industry. Over 20 years plus, she has honed her skills and expertise in lean operations, commercial management, coaching, mentoring, and business excellence. She holds a profound passion for fostering high performance and effective leadership, guided by a results-driven approach that employs structured visual management aligned with overarching business strategies. Elaine considers herself fortunate to have successfully spearheaded significant lean transformations, aiming to enhance efficiency and foster continuous improvement. Much of this success has been achieved by strategically leveraging lean principles to minimize waste, optimize materials and labor, ultimately delivering exceptional value to the customer. I will now hand over to Elaine to present.
Thanks, Derek. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Elaine Harrington, currently working in Suir Engineering. Sorry. Just in case you're wondering who the face is, that's me on my LinkedIn profile. So if anyone wants to send me a message or connect afterwards, feel free to ping me a message. So my background is I'm a specialist in business management, commercial, lean enterprise, and I also hold a black belt in lean. This year, we were fortunate enough with the Irish construction industry to receive the Lean Construction Achievement Award. And just a background about Suir Engineering. Suir Engineering is coming up onto 40 years in the business. We deliver both mechanical, electrical, instrumentation services. We're working in Ireland and across Europe. We employ about 2,000 people. And we hope to have a turnover this year in the excess of 400 million. The sectors in which we work in are pharma, energy, power and renewables, data centres, food and beverages. Our background of our customers would be reoccurring customers both in Ireland and in Europe. So we have a strong ethos on retaining customer base the whole time. We continually look at what the clients are looking for and hope to get in at the start of a project so we can put the structures in place to bring the client value. Earlier this year, John Kelly, who's our new CEO, he's placed our emphasis and strategy in growth and performance over the next couple of years. So we hope to be exceeding well in the excess of the 600 million mark in turnover over the next couple of years. I suppose the foundation of Suir Engineering is a Waterford-based company, and our workforce would be very much the basis of our company and our performance. We have several key members of our business that would have come in at apprentice level or trainee level and have grown throughout the business to excel into positions of directorship. So the agenda for today is I'm going to take you through just one of the digital projects that we have transformed. We have a multitude and there's several of them going on at any one time. And we also have a big company-wide one coming out over the next year. So I'm going to define where the digital strategy is, some of the elements in our journey and starting the digital transformation, assessing the current state of where we were when we started, setting out goals and objectives, involvement of building the team for the digital transformation, where the technology came in on the process, and some of the challenges we faced in this project. Also, a look at where there's resources available and where you can access information, and just a conclusion. So to bring you back to the start of our story, this particular project, we had a manual process. It was very simple. It was a triplicate book format that we had for the last 35 years in use. Everyone was happy with it. There was no need to change nothing, until one day we were speaking to our client, and they said, this manual day worksheet, as it's called, isn't getting to us promptly enough. So the idea of the day worksheet was to document not only the labour but the material in the process. So the work was instructed, we manually did it, but the time that we would actually give it to the client for sign off was quite a substantial timescale. So when we looked at this, we would have looked at efficiencies, and this is where our lean toolbox came in. So when you're looking at efficiencies, you're looking at ways you can eliminate waste in it, and also what were we looking at if we were going to digitalize the process. So to give you an idea, we started off process mapping our current state. As you can see, you have just a whole window stamped with post-its. It doesn't matter what way you look at your current state. You can look at it on a whiteboard, you can look at it on a scrapbook, you can look at it digitally on Excel, you can get physio into it. But the idea of documenting your current state is to identify each element and document it on a single post-it as you're looking at your current processes. This particular current process only took about 10 steps, and as you can see from the first step, we moved on to from the client when he gave the initial instruction for us to proceed to do the work, and that involved the footsteps, as we say, which is motion. So the client actually had to come physically find us in the location. You can imagine our office base on construction sites could be a mile away from the actual construction zone. So coming to our office space is intensive sometime. We have over 53 projects across the globe working. So the client actually physically come and find you is quite an effort. So in this particular case, the foreman would have carried out the works. They would have documented all the material that was used on the event. They would also document what hours they spent. They would do the calculations on how much it would cost. And they would then go and find the client for a dry signature. As this was a manual process, this had to be, again, there had to be motion involved to find the client. And when this particular case was done pre-COVID, so you can imagine when COVID hit, when we were in the middle of a trial session and there was nobody to be found. So it progressed, this particular project, quite quickly because we had to move it towards digital, even though we were in trial stages. As you can see, when we got the dry signature, this document then had to be scanned and given to the quantity surveyor. The quantity surveyor on a construction project is involved in governance and calculating of all budgets and allowance for the client. So they would have had to transfer that manual document into either an Excel account or whatever software platform the client requests. So this would move on to another step in the process, and then the client would receive it. He would either reject or approve it again, even though there was a dry signature. This is the way the business is run in construction. But you have an awful lot of elements, but the actual physical process time of this is going to be about 34 minutes. Would have to emphasize here is when you are documenting your current state, do not take it on one element, take it over a couple of trials. So don't automatically say, well, the current time for something is 3 minutes, but it's 3 minutes on the day shift, and maybe on a night shift it might be 7 minutes. So you really have to look at when you're documenting time against your process map of that it's an average over several records or data. The process, the lead time then in it was quite substantial. It was about 17 hours. So overall, you're looking at nearly 18 hours for a process of one physical document. So the major thing we would ask everyone to look at and be aware of about before they go to digitalization is don't fall down this pit hole. People are always very set, well, we know how our business works, it's very easy to go digital, but often you can be digitalizing an inefficient process. So make sure when you are going through your processes is that you address your waste, you highlight any issues of the of transferring it from manual to digital, and that you perhaps automatically you would look at your waste, and the best way to look at your waste is use the acronym Tim Woods. For those of you that don't know what Tim Woods acronym is, it's T is for transport. So everywhere in your process you would look at elements of transport waste, and can you eliminate it? Are you getting 2 deliveries instead of 1? Or maybe you can relook and address issues of waste there. I then is for inventory. Are you holding too much stock, or have you not enough stock? So look at that as a waste in the process. M is for motion, and as you seen earlier slide, motion would have been a big element of our process. So you've an awful lot of walking, but it's not about even physically walking. It's about making sure your workspaces and your workflow are adequate around you. We would, in several cases on site, we would make sure that there is workbenches available within arm's reach, and we would have a policy across all stores. If you can't find it in 30 seconds, you have an issue. So if you're going to look in a storeroom for a piece of material or an element of your process, and it's taken more than 30 seconds, perhaps you have to look at the efficiencies there. I'm trying to see. I think I'm, yeah, Tim Woods. W is for waiting. Again, a lot of processes involved waiting. And from any case study or any research, the minute you break in a process and have waiting introduced into an element of work, you would see that you're taken away, and you're not as focused on the actual process when you have waiting involved. So you would have to look at a waiting element. The first O then is over processing. One of the major elements in our process was we were over processing documentation. We had a manual form, and then we were introducing it into an Excel document. So we were doing it effectively twice, which is making that process inefficient. The second O is overproducing something. So maybe if part of the process is to produce 3 items and you're producing 5, you have an inefficiency of 2. So again, it's another valid way of looking at eliminating waste in your process. D then is defects. And you would look at maybe a page and say there's no defects in that, but there was several defects on it. We had legibility. If somebody wrote Joe Bloggs as an apprentice and it wasn't Joe Bloggs, so you have to be very careful of what way you're writing, that it's clear and legible. So there's quite a multitude of defects that you possibly are overlooking in your processes before you digitalize it. And S is skills. So you have skills, which is underutilizing skills within your team. You perhaps may have someone that is tech savvy, that could be a huge benefit to your team, but because you are not unaware or have never had that discussion with your team members, you could be underutilizing skills there. And also we would have had foremen that were underutilized. Their job is to manage people on site, not manage paperwork. So we were heavily reliant on, foremen that should be on the ground supervising, encouraging, coaching and mentoring our staff. So we were we had issues there of skills. So again, I can't emphasize enough, don't go digital until you've improved your processes and eliminated waste and really focused in on your team. Now, everyone loves a team that says yes. So when you're building your teams for a digital transformation, don't go with the three yes people on your team. Go with the person that's going to say no and give you pushback. Because that's where you're going to get great knowledge of where there's gaps in your processes. And someone may be a fantastic communicator, bring them onto the team. They may only just be good at communications, but there's so many elements in bringing in a diversity in teams. So when you're building your teams, it was very important to us when we built our teams that we brought in everybody, especially the people that said, no, this isn't a good idea. Bring them in on your team in the early stages when you're scoping out the work. When you're looking at your shareholders then, who's actually going to pay probably for your digital software and give you the support of the different departments within your company. A3 is perhaps a fantastic tool when you're scoping out, you're defining your problem, you're looking at your countermeasures, you're looking at your root causes, you're monitoring it, and it's a great communication of the story of the project when you're showcasing it to the shareholders, perhaps after a trial, and say, well, we've trialed this, we found that there was gaps in the business, we're going to add value here, and here are the countermeasures. And we're going to make it smart. We're going to say, well, we're going to improve efficiencies from 17 and a half hours down to 4 hours, whatever it may be at your given target for efficiencies. System support, these are perhaps your biggest allies. Some companies may not have system support analysts or specialists within their team, but make sure you have them when you're going for a digital presentation. I have put some words up here like wireframe, front end, back end, UAT testing, bug fixes, and data securities. It's a whole different language. And I suppose that's where I found my first hiccup. I don't talk data language. So if there's any advice I can give you, is make sure you have an IT specialist on board, because you have a scope of your document, you have a scope of what you're going to digitalize, but if you can't speak the language, sometimes it gets lost. Even in the earlier days, before you start looking for software or in-house development, make sure that you have dual form, one in your language and one in the data language, because it's not only beneficial for someone with data knowledge on your team, it's critical. And when you look at stats for digital transformation, you're looking at 70% failure rates, and this is probably the most positive. We were very lucky in our company to have system support, and we had them on from nearly the onset of the project, and we have them for every digital project we've run, and it's a whole different world if you can't talk data talk. So I suppose some of the steps along the way is, again, A3s are brilliant storytellers. So you have got your stakeholders, you've got your team members on it, everybody's coming back to that summary constantly. Yeah, you've got if you have a problem or an issue that you hit, go to the root cause of it, do your fishbone analysis, and get to the root cause, and then you become aware of what countermeasures you have to put in place. When we looked at reducing the overall process time from 17 plus hours, we wanted to measure it, and our initial target was actually 4 hours. But as you can see by a screenshot here, 80% of our processes are now completed in 1 hour, which is a fantastic improvement by eliminating waste and going on the digital platform. Not to say that we haven't had ups and downs, but make sure that you have collaboration of your team, you have a constant measurement that you're looking at. So when we set about defining the strategy and the goals and the objectives, we had a lot of things. One was initially it was value for the client, it was timescale for the client. The client needed to get it faster and more efficiently. So they needed to get the bills in time so that they could forecast their own cash flows. We need to get the bills out in time so we can forecast our own cash flow. So just when put them all down. What are your goals? What do you want to achieve? Because often when you're in a digital strategy, what can happen is you're looking at the project and you're saying, okay, but wouldn't it be great if we could do this? Or, oh, and you get another light bulb moment and say, maybe I could add on here, or maybe we could do this. But if you define your strategy and your goals and objectives right from the start, and constantly ahead of every meeting and get together, ground yourself and state that at every meeting. This is what we're here for. This is what we've to achieve, because you can get sidetracked from project scope. And you just need to realign your objectives and your goals right back to where you said you were going to be. And remember, because it's a continuous improvement project, well, that's the way we look at all our projects, it's not going to stay stagnant. So when you are doing rollouts of digital transformation, maybe it can be in the next revision, and maybe once you have established the team that are going to lead this project, that it is, you know, target for their next quarter is that they add on that revision and they drive that forward. Because with change in markets and everything, there is no software that's going to stay stagnant. So you constantly have to evolve with market trends. We're looking at now from 3D to 5D in construction. We're looking at drones, we're looking at construction trends, constant material price rises. So we constantly have to evolve for more efficiencies. So not only if you digitalize something, you have to make sure that there's growth in the digital software you're going to buy or invest in. So as I was saying about the digital transformation, it is overhauling all your traditional ways. So be very aware of that in the change management. Not everyone is going to come on board. I know from personal experience, changing something that was 35 years embedded into a company culture is not easy. So go to the floors, go to the floors of the factories, go to the building sites, if it's for construction, whether it's a service you provide. There's no good sitting up at the high level and saying, well, this is the way they're going to do it. You need to be on the ground, and that's where your Gemba walks come in. Everything has to be done on the ground. So when you're building any digital transformation, and you're looking for, you know, a smooth change management to go ahead, you need to have the right people involved. So your team needs to consist of people from the ground for every element, not just the digital and not just the managers. You need to do your research, and you need to invest in what their risks are or what their pushbacks are. You need to put a countermeasure in place, because when you roll out digital transformation, it can be hard. Training is a big thing. Actually, I forgot to mention that. Training is a huge thing, the different types of training platforms. We find that you have to cater for all elements, not only videos that they can pause, rewind, stop, play. Other people like training done in booklet form, just they can print something and go by it. There's a certain element of other people that they actually want you to pull up the chair and do it with them. So there is not a one size fits all for digital transformation training. Be aware of that. And not alone that, when I was doing my own research, about 60% of construction workers alone in Scotland have a tendency to be slight dyslexic. So you need to build that element in and do your research. Who are you training, and what fits best with them? Don't go with one. Don't go with one element. Go with several, because you will always have the one person that's not comfortable with videos, that's not comfortable in one-on-ones, that they may need to take it away, the training manual, and come back to it later. So again, I suppose that's another element. And any digital transformation, make sure it adds value. There is no point digitalizing something that doesn't add value. You hear so many times, and I've seen an awful lot of softwares that they constantly click. I'm always stay on the one screen. Less clicks is more efficient. So if you're taking something through a digital transformation and there's more clicks and there's more screens, there's more interaction, or you have to leave the landing page you hit on, it causes confusion and it causes interruption to people's flow of work. They need to stay on the one landing page. So if you are digitalize something, be aware of that. Less clicks, because often, and remember, if you have your current state process time from the start, at least you can say, well, if I introduce 3 more clicks and 3 more screens, it's going to give an additional 3 minutes. I don't have that. So it's very important to document your process time from the start, because the last thing is, if you have a process time of 34 minutes, you don't want to extend that to 45 minutes. So constantly look for efficiencies by always looking at your measurements. So some of the challenges I suppose we came across is we would have come across some challenges with the system solutions. One, not knowing data language, and timescale. We would have underestimated the turnaround time when we give it to the software companies. And you also have the challenges of when you're looking at software is, are you going for a bespoke or off the shelf? Bespoke is very much more adaptable, but because it has to be built specifically for you, the timescale is a lot higher than buying it off the shelf. But if you buy something software off the shelf, you may not have the opportunity to adapt certain elements to your own business. And remember, software companies will say, yes, we can do that, but is yes, we can do that at a substantial cost, and it's further down at Q4 and not Q1 when you want it. So are you willing to wait if they do adapt their software slightly towards you? Another one would be critical is trials. If you are going with new software, make sure that you can trial it. Most companies will give you about a month's trial on it. That may or may not be enough to get, you might only get 5 elements out of the processes trialed in a month. It depends what you're digitalize. So bear that in mind, is the capability of trial, and if there is a cost to that trial. When you are in your trials, you're going to get feedback, you're going to get flaws. So you have to adapt quickly and change, and hopefully that you've embedded with whatever software you're going for, that these changes and fixes or problems can be adapted quite quickly. The last thing you want to do is wait for a developer to be a month turnaround before they fix a flaw or an issue or something that's critical to you getting your digital project over the line. Again, I can't stress enough, diversity is hugely important in your teams. Don't go with the 3 yes people. Go with people that's going to challenge you, because in the early stages, that's where you're going to identify some gaps. So definitely. And be aware of the change management. You won't, whether you're going to go with a quick, fast change, or whether you're going to do it basing it over project by project. Make sure you're aware of the change management that you want to approach. We went for a phased, so we phased it over projects. We went live with 1 and then live with 5 and then a full implementation. Don't underestimate the training timescale. It depends how many bodies you have to go out to, and also the training type. Again, you have to be agile. You have to be able to move on your feet with any digital transformation. And I suppose another thing is you have to be able to walk away if it's not the right one for you. Don't invest too much at the start. Do a couple of trials on different options. Look at what's available out there when you are going up for a digital transformation. So our digital journey, this is only one of the digital journeys. We started off at 17 hours and 20 minutes and we reduced it to 34 minutes in total from start to finish. So this was probably perhaps our most successful journey, and we document and measure that constantly through Power BI. So it's a constant and it's a great tool. We're lucky to have the data specialists in the team that build the Power BIs behind our app. So this was a very positive digital journey for us. I have since had ones that are not so positive, but I have learned an awful lot. So again, when you're going on your digital journey, just remember it's the value for the client. But in our case, it was value also for the site team. So be aware of where you have to add the value. Don't put non-necessary value add items to the process. Eliminate the waste there. Give time back to the people was a huge benefit. We also reduced our carbon footprint. We were, for 50 odd projects, we were producing paper digital books that we totally eliminated. So it was a huge positive for our carbon footprint going forward. We also adapted a continuous improvement culture within the teams that we have rolled out the Dayworks process. And we greatly improved the efficiency, and I suppose we've been on our lean journey since 2018. So we've had great success with lean in our business about improving efficiencies. We've also had some fails, but today is not to talk about our fails. It was very positive on our lean journeys, and we would have a lean management structure throughout our business. So lean would be very positive in our culture. And also, I suppose, not to forget that document the lessons learned early, document it from the start. There's several templates out there. You can go to project management, you can go to Lean Construction Ireland. There's a lot of, but document, because often a project can go over 6 months, 12 months, it depends, and you may not, you will forget about some of the issues, but it's to have that lessons learned on your first digital or second or whatever the case may be of a digital transformation. You have elements that you need to document. You will forget. Now, albeit personally you won't forget, but for the next digital transformation within your company, they need to know the knowledge of your journey. So I would say document it early. It doesn't have to be major. You can have a notebook, and everywhere you want a remember, or put a hashtag beside it. So when you flick back through your notebook or whatever in your project, that you just go for the hashtags. Make something simple. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. So again, definitely would say lessons learned documented from the start. Just, I suppose, a reflection on what's out there. Like, there's some amazing case studies that have been done already through Lean Construction Ireland. If you look at any of the books of cases, there's been a lot of companies out there with similar digital transformations that may suit the viewers online. So go out there and find out where the resources are. Also, if you're only dipping your feet into Lean, WIT runs some fantastic courses from diploma right up to master's level on Lean. There's other great colleges, like there's University of Limerick and both in Cork, and I know Sligo have a new modern methods of construction for digital transformation. if you want to read some case papers, academia is brilliant. So if you want to touch base on them, it's just that you're probably not going to be the first person that's going to digitalize either a process, a service, or something in your business. And there is loads of information out there. So these are just probably some things. LinkedIn again is a very powerful element where you can find stuff on digital transformations. I hope you got some benefit of what I've shown. I didn't want to bombard you with loads of text and everything on the screens, but that's it in a nutshell. It's short and sweet, but I'm hoping the raw and honesty will signal something that you might take away from today, and I'm open to questions and answers.
Thanks, Elaine. Excellent presentation. Some great detail and some great learnings there along the way as well. I'll ask anybody if they have any questions to make sure that they put them in the question box. I have a couple of questions, and there's a couple that have come in already, Elaine. Really, you did talk about the digital piece, but it really comes back, and one thing you touched on particularly was the likes of change management. And not everybody was open to the change at the start. I suppose get to the gemba, get to the shop floors is a key part of that. In terms of that change management piece, how long did it take, or how did you approach it? And what were the wins, and where did it not go so well?
We took it first. The project I happened to be working on was the one that had the issue, so we took it there on a trial first. Then we rolled it out to a similar industry. And once we got it there, we rolled it out to another sector in the business. We probably have at the moment, we have probably about 97% engagement on it. Again, with constant changes in the business, it's about refreshing and constantly letting people know that it's actually out there. I actually also banned the production of Dayworks books, so they have to come and do it. That is probably something else. Maybe ban the production of anything that's not in the way. I did drag a few over screaming and shouting. But you have to listen, and I can't emphasize that enough. If somebody has an issue or it doesn't work for them, or you have to adapt, and you have to really sit down and listen. We did have one particular case where we had to change something, and it proved a benefit to everyone. So you have to listen, and there's no other way. You come up with a compromise then between the two, and see, can you move it forward?
You mentioned about communication and getting the message out there. How did you do that effectively, or what worked or didn't? Did you set it up on the first project and invite other people to come to that project? Or, because again, as you mentioned, people have different learning styles, audio, reading, visual, kinesthetics, those kind of things. How do you effectively communicate across such a large organization?
I suppose we would have earlier on. We would have mentioned it, so we got the word out quickly. We're thinking of kind of, and brought it out, and then it was, what would you think? And we kind of built like a little network. So we kind of had discussions, like in general chats, like we'd reach out to a site maybe in Denmark and say, do you know that we're thinking of doing a digital transformation in our Dayworks process? Would it be of interest to you? Would it help you? What are your thoughts on it? So you have to have that initial, like, don't go off on your own. Absolutely not. So, when you get an idea, build a network, but spread that network. Don't isolate it to your own zone. And we built a network.
Did you see kind of champions on each project then at that stage to help roll it out, or what did that look like?
Yeah, well, what we kind of said is, we kind of we actually targeted probably QSs, and we said, what's the bane of your life? And I suppose I was coming from a QS background at the time, so I said, "Isn't this a pain?" And then you start, and one person I talked to the other, and they goes, "Well, Elaine is actually working on something. You should give her a shout." So just, you know, you don't have to go all guns blazing at the start, but just get, and don't be afraid. I suppose I was afraid at the start. I wanted it perfect. So I didn't want to roll it out so quickly. I was kind of, it's not perfect yet. And that was, I suppose it was one of my first projects I rolled out, and stop looking for perfect. Good enough is enough, because you're going to constantly evolve in it. So don't look for the 100% perfection. Go with the 95% and run with it. You will always have a glitch. You will have something fail. So go with good enough.
Okay, very good. If you were to start another digital transformation again, what's one thing you would do first and one thing you would do differently?
Bring on the IT support quickly. And I have 2 or 3 other projects rolled out since, and the IT support. We don't talk the language. You know, when you're going into trials, a person that's actually using the data and the software will have a different mindset for trialing, where the data analysts in the background and the system supports, they're just looking at the back end. What's the data? What can we produce, you know, to do the dashboard? So they're looking at it differently. It's a minefield, and that's why they're specialists. Like, adapt your specialist early.
Very good. Question there. Did you use an in-house bespoke app to capture your data in this instance, or an off-the-shelf app?
We developed an in-house app. For the initial research and trials and everything, we would have went out in Microsoft Forms. For the first part of the trial, we trialed it on Excel via Adobe for signatures.
Okay.
So
And
we
in terms
did
of
trial it
continuous
that
improvement,
way.
so it's your own app. It's an in-house, so you'll be able to maintain and update that yourselves.
Yeah.
And how often does it change, or what is that process for review?
It doesn't. It's just if there's an issue or something. But we were because we have 53 projects across the globe, we have all different rates. You can imagine we have rates in Germany, we have rates in Denmark, we have rates in Ireland, and so on. So we needed an awful lot of adaptation around our own units of measure and everything. So we had to be able to say, well, when I land in Denmark, it's bespoke for Denmark, and when I land in Germany, it's bespoke for Germany. So we were very lucky. We have we outsource for an app developer, and he's just excellent.
And then integration with the supply chain, your supply chain, either subcontractors or other contractors that you're dealing with. How does that work?
No, we only use this direct for Suir employees.
Your employees. Okay, very good. What is your biggest surprise throughout the project?
Biggest surprise, I suppose, when you're part of a project, you've got great passion for it, and you see all the rosiness or whatever. So people that are adamant that no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it that way. So it's it's about you know, probably if I had my time back again, I probably would have picked. But I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't have had the knowledge of. Like, I mean, we've got a huge volume of construction sites, so I wouldn't have known who I suppose would have been my biggest pushback. Uh, so maybe get them on board a little earlier. But we had several people that were challenging us already, but you probably will never be able to get that exception.
Those challenges were in the form of we're too busy to be looking at this kind of, or did this, yeah.
Yeah, that rolls off everyone's tongue when you ask about improvements. You're too busy. So I said, are you too busy to change to make an improvement? Are you too busy doing what you're doing and it's not improving it? And so you kind of have to be ready for them sort of pushbacks.
Okay, so maybe a kind of a final piece of information, maybe if an organization was to look to start a digital transformation themselves, what advice would you offer in terms of getting started?
Improve your processes, number one. Do not digitalize something that's already inefficient. Improve your process. Look at your value stream. Look at your current value stream, without a doubt.
Very good. Nice, simple. Thanks, Elaine. And thank you very much for your very informative presentation today. It's good to see good news stories. Everybody, please note that a copy of this webinar will be sent out to everyone who attended. Information will be sent out shortly in relation to the next webinar as well. Again, thanks to Elaine for the little plug on our book of case studies as well, because during it, just to remind people who maybe do track it on the website, we actually launched our new 2023 book of case studies at our recent LCI conference as well. So we very much welcome people when it's available to log in and review online. Finally, thanks to everyone who attended today. We very much look forward to meeting you in the future at any of the LCI webinars and other events. Have a lovely day. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.